As we do say here in Rumbe Twunde, that is just what we praise, and it does mean let's go! And Jambo, welcome to Rumbe Wildlife Reserve. Before we do enter, few things. Number one, please remain sitting at all times through the whole safari journey. Make sure you also keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs side of the vehicle. Hang tight to your valuables, and if you plan to take photographs of the animals, make sure you chill on the very fast just be with, because the animals move around all the time. They don't stop and they don't check a pose. Ah, there's the all clear. Let us go one day, friends, now into the very forest. Alrighty, the first thing we're going to find out here today is no copy. There to your right hand side, two of them. And for many years when people first saw copies, they always just assumed they were related to zebras because of those striped legs. Well, until about the late 1900s until they discovered they're one of the only known living relatives of the giraffe, as they share an identical head bone structure and share very similar tongues. In fact, the tongue is so long, they can lick their eyeballs and nostrils very good ease and accuracy.
They can lick their boogers.
They also stand about 5 feet tall and they can weigh up to 1,000 pounds, with an average running speed of 32 miles per hour. Now there's another creature a little further ahead up on the hill there, if you can see it, a black rhinoceros. There's also a secondary one there to your left, but that one's showing with the good side, the backside view. Now, these creatures, you can tell they are separate from each other because they are solitary. They enjoy their personal space, as there's only very few and rare times you ever find two of them even near one another. They weigh between 1,000 and 3,000 pounds and have an average running speed at around 30 to 35 miles per hour. Now, one of those occasions would be like a nighttime near a watering hole, where you might find the two of them looking to get a bit more acquainted with each other. But here to your right is a greater kudu. And that great kudu has something called acute hearing. As you can see, the ears are perked forward. That's saying it's listening for something and making sure there's no danger ahead of them. They are 5 feet tall, between 450 to 750 pounds. And only a male will have horns, as females actually don't have any, so that indeed was a female's behind this. Now up there to your top left, there's a bongo, a creature with the nickname Ghost of the Forest, because when that creature doesn't want to be seen, you won't find him, because look there in the bush, there's another one hiding. There's also right next to the bush a saddle-built stork, a 5 foot tall bird that has a wingspan 9 feet long, and only weighs 17 pounds. And now we head off and towards the soft beach river. Once we make it over the hill. Woo! Now, directly ahead of us on the shoreline, there's a lot of pink-backed pelicans. These birds do have a pink feather on the backs of them, and around the mating season time, you find the feathers a lot more vibrant in color. They are a 12 to 22 pound bird, and an average diet for them is a lot of smaller fish. Now, if there's no small fish, then they're eating things like frogs, lizards, and here to your left are some Nile hippopotamuses. Now, when hippos are all gathered together in the water like this, it's called a bloat, and they may look small, but these creatures are indeed very large. They are roughly 4,000 to 6,000 pounds, and averaging about 5 to 6 feet in length. Now, to why a group of them is called a bloat, it's actually the way they can rise and fall beneath the water is called bloating, and that's just them expanding and contracting the lungs. When they do submerge themselves underneath the water, they can stay there 8 minutes at one single time. And the way they move from point A to point B in the water, they don't actually swim because their legs are too short for that. Instead, they walk on the bottom of the riverbanks and occasionally run underneath the water, and the running speed from them in the water is on average 10 miles per hour. Now up here to your far left hand side are some Nile crocodiles. And these are 15 to 20 foot long creatures. They weigh between 500 to 1,000 pounds. They're also very cold-blooded, and they can either be in the water on the shoreline, just depends where they want to adjust their temperatures. Now the way they adjust that is by opening their mouths, as the roof acts like a big thermometer for them. And when they're gathered together on the shoreline, it's called a bass. As now we head towards the savannah region. Now, savannah is quite a large area. It has actually two parts to it. The first part we're heading towards is called the west area.
This is crazy.
Ooh, look further ahead, friends. There are some creatures ahead. And just briefly here to your right, that's a baobab tree. They live to be thousands of years. You find them all around here. And these in front of us are indeed Maasai giraffes. Maasai is just one of the 9 different species of giraffes you find around the world. And how you can tell they're of the Maasai species, they have what's called the messy spot pattern, which means just that there is no kind of a repetition or any kind of a cohesion in finding spots at all. But it looks like they're all in the mood today, so when they're moving from one place to another, that's known as a journey of giraffes, because they're making a journey from one place to another. Once they become stationary, and then it's known as a tower of giraffes. Very simply put, because they do indeed tower over us. When they are starting life, they're starting life at a short height of 6 feet tall and a couple hundred pounds. Give them just 6 years later, and they'll become fully grown, standing anywhere between 15 to almost 20 feet high. And they never look like it either, but they weigh between 4,000 and 7,000 pounds. And despite being very tall creatures, there always will be that tree that is taller than them. So, reach leaves and branches they eat throughout the day's time, they use their 1.5 foot long tongue. Now, the tongue is known as a prehensile tongue. It means, it's a fancy way of saying they can pinch, pull, and grab their tongue. They actually can lift up to 7 pounds just their tongue alone, so it's quite hefty of a tongue. And it's also very clever too. Now, their tongue sometimes has a purplish blue coloration to it, and that's actually naturally going to have their tongue so they never get sunburned right there. They'll spend around 20 hours a day just eating and chewing roughly 70 pounds of the food. Of that 70 pounds, they'll chew it down quite down to a rough state. Go ahead and pause that for a second, because to your left over here are ankole cattle and the sable antelopes. The antelope are the ones you saw with the really large horns. Their horns grow between 5 to 6 feet in length, and they may look heavy, those horns, but those horns only weigh between 5 and 12 pounds. They're 80% hollow. Sable antelopes have a horn that's only 4 feet long, very skinny, a solid bone, and they are very protective of each other in their territory. Directly in front of us to your left, you'll see the Patterson eland, which are the largest of the antelope species. You can see one has a grayer top to it, and the other one has a lighter tan. The gray is the male, the lighter tan is the female. Males are roughly 6 feet tall, 2,000 pounds. Females are 5'10", roughly 1,800 pounds. But both have a very unique ability to jump 4 to 8 feet straight up into the air. A feat they can do because they're 95% muscle creatures. Now, if you better closer look at these Maasai giraffes, and since their station is just a tower of them, each one of them does have the very unique spot patterns about them. As I mentioned, they are sharing their food down to a local state. Well, they get the food down to this point because they have a 4-chamber stomach system, and it would take them approximately 400 days to digest fully throughout all 4 chambers they have. It looks like that one's going to head right for the road, so I'm going to pause. I don't want to interrupt its path. Because this is their home, we're very respectful of them, and we never want to feel like we're encroaching on their territory at all.
Oh, look at this one crossing the road.
And so here, if you want to say the word giraffe, that actually is the word twigga.
It's breakfast time.
And also here to your left, there's some Hartman Mountain zebras.
Zebra!
Now, a group of zebras is known as a dazzle. And it's a long title I just gave the zebra, but that's because there are 3 species of zebras worldwide. There's commons, there's Giraffes, and then there's mountains, which these are. Mountain zebras have a very noticeable strap patterns about them because their back hind leg has a very thick pattern, while the rest body is thin going the opposite direction. Now, Hartman is actually an expression to how far the straps fall on them. And for these, Hartman means they can fall midway. They don't go all the way to the belly. If you ever want to know what straps on top of which, the good way you can tell it is by looking at the nose. The gray animal to your right is a white-bearded wildebeest, and a little further ahead of us, there's kind of scattered around the area here, but these tiny little creatures you see are springboks. And they're the smallest of the antelope species. They only stand 3 feet high, weighing 100 pounds. And whenever that creature first sees a predator, the first reaction for it is not to run. They actually will jump 6 feet straight up into the air.
A wildebeest, I think is what that was.
Now, as I mentioned, the white-bearded wildebeest, they are a migratory creature. For them, they make a journey every year between 500 up to 1,000 miles. And the size of the herd, it is constantly changing as there's no alpha structure to them. So they sort of just come and go as they so choose and please. And the size of the herds could be in the low hundreds, thousands, or beyond that, because there's over 1 million of them in the wild today. Let's see, what else is in this? Ooh, to your right hand side, the African elephant. Now you can tell it is an African elephant by the very large ears there, which is the most common notable way for an African elephant, but there's also two other ways. If you sight the ears long enough, you eventually find the shape or outline of the African elephant. The third way would be, you're in Africa. But to your left, those mandrills are in the bushes over there to your left hand side. Mandrills are the largest monkeys in the world because a full-grown male could be up to 100 pounds. Females only get about 80 pounds. But a group is called a troop. And usually a troop is led by the strongest male. Alright, I don't quite see anything else, so we're going to venture on and see what else might be able to discover.
What do you think? You're just sitting there.
Now we got to cross over the old bridge. It's been around since 1971 and it has gone through quite a bit of years. They've used things like cables and ropes to hold it together throughout the years, but this time around they want to see how well duct tape would work out. And now we're going through some red clay actually. Inside of this there's a lot of vitamins and nutrients, and a lot of animals will actually eat this to get those nutrients. In fact, the one that eats the most is African elephants. Those are their test markers here inside there. For African elephants, red clay is roughly 2% of their diet. The rest is a lot of other things. Some animals are not strong enough to get into the red clay because it is very hard. They actually wait for other animals to eat it first and then eat the crumbs left over after from them, or like chips of the wall that are easy to bite into. Trying to see if a little further ahead what animals might be coming into view next. Not seeing any animals first. Oh, yes, some more African elephants. You see them over there?
Over on this side, baby. You're gonna see.
Now, as I mentioned about their diet, they eat all sorts of fruits and vegetables and peanuts, and all kinds of trees, bushes, grass, and roots of a lot of things. The amount of food just one of them eats in a day is equivalent to 300 pounds. Now, they can't eat so much because they are such a large creature. When starting life, they were 2 feet tall, 300 pounds. Though it takes them 20 years to become full-grown adults, and they take their mothers up to 24 months to get perfectly well.
Until after this, you'll be able to see.
There's the one right there to your left hand side. So once they are full-grown adults, on the short end they'll be 5 feet tall at 10,000 pounds, or on the larger end they could be up to nearly 8 feet tall at 14,000 pounds. And a group of them in one area is called a memory. To your left are the great flamingos. Now, great flamingos are the tallest of the flamingo family at 5 feet, and they only weigh 9 pounds. You also find that they're the lightest color pink of the flamingo family. Now, their entire body, the most pink on them is their wings. They tend to keep hidden underneath the tail feathers. And when there's a group of them gathered together in one particular location, that is known as a flamboyance. So there's one more view of those flamingos and African elephants.
And the elephants, baby, you see?
As we are now going to be heading into the other half savannah, this area is known as the East Savannah. And I see a white rhinoceros directly ahead of us. Now this creature weighs between 4,000 and 5,000 pounds when fully grown. And many times people think that they're called the white rhinoceros because of the color of skin or horns. That actually is not the case. We believe it's a mistranslation of the original name, because the original name for this creature was the white rhinoceros. And in Swahili, white actually means broad and wide. And they have very broad white shoulders to them, flat white mouths. But if you say white fast enough, it sounds as if you say the word white. We think that's what might have happened. They mistook the word white for the word white. And eventually the term white rhinoceros just eventually stuck, and why they're still called that to this very day. Let's see right here. I'm hearing somebody yell cheetah, but
Oh, but right behind the
and you have good spotting eyes. Now, cheetahs, they can go from the speed of 0 to 60 in just in 3 seconds. However, though cheetahs can only maintain their speed for a few hundred yards, they still know how to maximize the use of their speeds, because they have really good instincts, great eyesight, and attractive claws. Overall, cheetahs are considered to be the most accomplished day hunters when it comes to members of the family, because they only hunt during the daytime, simply due to the fact that they actually have no nighttime vision whatsoever. When the sun goes down, they can't see past their own nose. And the most a cheetah can ever make with their vocals would be something like a soft chirping sound or a soft purr noise, but nothing really beyond that range. Now here to your left hand side, you do have the Kopi Rocks. And imagine just having a rockin' time over here. Well, that was Rocks Island. Then we'll continue and see if there's anything around these rocks. Yep, to your left, friends, some very sleepy lions. Which is very atypical because lions spend up to 16 hours a day sleeping, resting. Basically, they conserve all their energy for later times of the night when they would be out on the hunt. Now, a group of lions is known as a pride. And prides usually will consist of one male and multiple females. Also, briefly to your right hand side is a lot more white rhinos, including a little one over there. I'll see about getting back around them in a moment. Lions, being a 500-pound creature, have a few unique things about themselves. Like they can jump between 5 to 15 feet straight up in the air. They have the average running speed at 32 miles per hour. And of course, that roar. The roar of a lion is something that can be heard nearly 5 miles away. The only times lions ever roar, though, is when they're claiming food or claiming territory. Now, so I hear be able to say the word lion, that's a word you all know really well, because it's Simba. Up to your left hand side, in the far back corner there, you'll see a furry rock that is a warthog over there. And warthogs are the biggest burrowing creatures of the wild, and one of the most intelligent ones too. They actually have an average running speed of 45 miles per hour. And I'm pretty sure when you think of warthog, the first word ever popped in mind is Pumbaa, which is Swahili. And when you translate Pumbaa, it actually says foolish one. Now, for white rhinoceros, the little one over there to your right is the youngest one. It's roughly a year old. This one to your right is roughly a year and a half old, so it's a little older. When they start life, they're between 80 and 140 pounds, and it takes them 7 years to become full-grown adults. Now, if you notice they're all gathered in a big group like this, that's because they're very social. They're the exact opposite of the cousin of white rhinoceros. And so a group of white rhinoceros is called a crash because they don't have the greatest of eyesight. Everything about 10 feet in front of them looks like a big colored blob. So for them to know what blob they can or cannot go through, they actually deliberately crash into it. And there to your right hand side on the ground, it's a little hidden, but there's some ostrich eggs over there. To your far right in the back corner. Now an ostrich egg actually can withstand nearly 300 pounds of pressure and not crack. It only weighs 3 pounds. And the best part is I'm not going to egg you on with a joke. We're going to head off and into the Makati Homeland. Now this area is where we're going to find the location, it's called the Warden's Post, because there's a whole group of people that takes care of the animals in the reserve. They're called animal wardens. They're not here at the moment, but right on top of the roof there is a lot of sleeping Nigerian dwarf goats, which are very social, very friendly goats. Now throughout the day, if no one's socializing with them, they will sleep anywhere they deem comfortable for themselves. They also eat a lot of weeds, underbrush, moss-grass trees, and things of that nature. And some parts of the day, they do get a little bored. So two of them will all of a sudden face off, charge, and thump each other on the head. And I use the word thump because the top speed for this goat is 0.5 miles per hour. They're only 2 feet tall, 50 to 70 pounds, so not much mass behind that. But we are going to be venturing all the way back to the main village. And I do hope you've enjoyed seeing the animals out here today, because not only do I hope that they can see our parks by seeing, not to be much more mindful. As we do try to see about these animals, we always got to do things on our parts to help them out. We could recycle or use reusable item, which will help to reduce the amount of waste in the world and give Earth a chance to recover so animals have a place to thrive in the wild. But that's just one small example, as there is truly endless of possibilities we can do to help out the animals. And anyway, you have been helping in the past, are still helping to this day, and what we might plan to do in the future to help out the animals. In the end, friends, if it does help the animals out, it is greatly appreciated. But listening a little further ahead, and I can hear someone playing, which means we've made it back into the main village. And around here we don't say goodbye, as it's far too sad and far too much of a final farewell. Instead, we leave you with the older Swahili phrase, Nikoshima Lahabi. And when you roughly translate that, does mean to say to go well and to go wild. Now, if I have any wilderness explorers on board, well, you've been riding aboard the Simba #1. That's SIMBA and the #1 on page 14 of your booklets, where you actually pick up your badge. Is when you're off the dock here, head up the path. Once you go past the water drinking fountains, look to your right, they should be in that area. If you go up the hill and see strollers, you've gone too far and you go backwards. But if you ever come back to do safaris again, friends, there's always one theme guaranteed for you, and that is no two safaris are the same. Being around live animals, it means that you do something different every single time. Been here for a number of years, and some days it's really cool to see things, and other days I'm like, wish I hadn't seen that now. But I hope you have a great rest of your stay here today at the Animal Kingdom and to wherever else the journeys may take you. Wherever you do take your friends, be safe, stay well, do stay hydrated. It's supposed to get to 86 degrees today, and many cheers.